this file, we talked about the if function. Okay, what did we say the if function deals with? And what makes you know that here you're supposed to use the if function? I said I'd really want this class to be as interactive. So with the if function, what does it deal with? I think I'll start mentioning names. Victor, what did we say in our last class about the if function? Anything about the if function?
So if function, it is a condition.
What?
It is a condition.
Mm-hmm.
It is a condition between two or more. It is between one or two or more conditions.
Yes. So it's a condition that deals with two or more outcomes.
Yeah.
That's what we say the if function is all about. So it has to have a condition. That's the first thing that helps you to know that here I'm supposed to use the if function. And number two, I said you use one thing to get you the other. So look at this file. So this is what I want us to learn. All these Excel files that I shared are real organizations' Excel's work. So they're not just Excel works that I combined from nowhere. These are real works. And number two, most of them are interview questions, and not just interview questions for just ordinary firms. These are actually interview questions for rather big firms. So maybe just take note of whatever that you are doing. Make sure that you're comfortable and that you can handle everything that we are doing. Sawa. So when you're going to for an interview and you in your CV, maybe you've written that you've done or you're good with the Excel, expect such cases. So they give you this case and they give you a specified time for you to work on them, and then you submit your work. So let's look at this. So number one, anytime you're shared with an Excel file, anytime you're shared with any Excel file, don't start working on it immediately. Look at that file, familiarize yourself, just skim through it. Have a rough idea of what this file is all about so that when it comes to solving, it becomes actually easy because you can relate whatever you're solving to the output. So at the moment, let's just have a look at this file and maybe try deduct a few things about it. So the first thing that we are seeing is the employees number. So if you try expanding this column, the first column, that's the employee number. And this employee number actually ran up to, I think, 28, let's see, 25. So that's the first thing that you're able to see. The next thing that you're able to see is the name. So we have specific name for all these employees. So these employees have their number, and number two, you have their names. The third thing is the code. So we have the code for each employee, of which some codes are actually similar. And then region, they're from various regions. Some are from Nairobi, some are from Mombasa, Nakuru, Kisumu, Nyeri, and all that. And then we have sales. We have sales for each employee, literally. And then we have, again, target for each employee. So we've been given that information at our disposal. Yeah, it's at our disposal. So on the bonus part, we've been told that bonus in bracket, 5% of sale. In short, bonus is 5% of sale. And then we have the retainer, the gross pay, the pay period, and all that. So we don't have that information provided for us. So we are supposed to calculate, or rather get that information all the way from bonus to the last thing, which is the status. All right. So let's, after having skimmed through this file, maybe what can you say about the file? What do you think the file is all about? Ama hii data ni ya kina nani? Ken, what do you think? Mm-hmm. Another one. Let's go to Alfred. Alfred, what do you think this data is about? Alfred, are you there? So we've just tried going through that file, and I said, let's familiarize ourselves. Let's just know a few things about that file so that we can proceed. Elizabeth, what do you think the file is all about, the Excel file?
I think it's trying to get the sales commission for these men and women.
Okay, so the first thing is that, number one, we know that we have various employees, actually 25 employees, and these employees are from various regions. And then these employees have specific sales and specific targets. So this is more or less like a company that deals with sales and, what do you call it? Sales and? It's a sales company, like the insurance company. This is what you see them mostly doing. They have their employees, various employees, and then these employees, kila mmoja amepatiwa target yake, whereby they're supposed to go out there, get the clients, and then they're paid maybe monthly, but still they have that commission based on the number of guys. But for you to get the commission, you must have met the target that you've been given. In as much as, for example, I have 10 employees, right? At the end of every month, nimesema lazima kila mmoja wa huyo employee anapatiwa 10% of their sale. That becomes the retainer. Whether you make less sales or more sales, you just get 10% of what of your sales. That is the retainer. That means you have to get paid based on the sales that you've made. But for the bonus is more or less like commission. So on the bonus is normally very specific. At the end of the day, you're given a target, but you have to surpass that target for you to get that bonus. For example, let me equate this to, there are these salespersons that you find in the supermarkets. Okay, they're promoting a certain brand. Maybe that person at the end of the day, ameambiwa say that person is selling something like, let's say Blue Band, and then that person manages to sell 10 pieces of Blue Band. So at the end of the day, that person gets 10% of the total amount that they have sold. So if they sold one, they'll get 10% of that. If they sold two, if they sell two, then they get 10% of that amount of money. That is the retainer. But on the bonus, assuming that, okay, this person has made 10 pieces, has sold 10 pieces, but then huyu mtu alikuwa amepatiwa a target of, let's say 12. Will that person get commission? That person will not get commission unless they get that, they sell that 12 pieces, and then they can get now 5% of those pieces. Are we okay? So let's come here and now start calculating. So we said the bonus is more or less like the commission, okay? So definitely here to calculate the bonus, you're going to use the if function. How are we going to use function? You're going to say, because you're inputting a condition, for you to get the 5%, you must have surpassed the target, okay? So I'll come to the very first cell. So I want you to remember the drill that we were using in our last class, whereby you calculate for the first person and then you autofill, because it's still the same formula that is being used. Sawa. So I'll come here and instead with an equal sign, and then I'll type if. I'll double click on if. So inakuuliza, what is your logical test? What are you arguing about? What is your argument? So that you have the value if true, the outcome, and value if false for the outcome. So in this case, the outcomes are just two. Number one, the first outcome is you get the 5% of sale or you don't. So the outcomes are only two. So the logical test of mine is going to be, if I click on sell, you click on that sales cell. If this cell, or rather these sales, is greater than target. So I want you to digest that. If I said the sales cell is greater than target, what do I mean? What do I mean with this statement? My logical test. If this cell that contains my sales, the first sales, is greater than my target, means that that person surpassed their target, sindio? And we said if you surpass your target, then you're supposed to get 5% of your sale. So this becomes my logical test. This is where my argument is going to come from. So after the logical test, the next thing is the comma. So I'm going to put the comma there. It takes me to the value if true. So value if true simply means if it's true that your sales is greater than the target, what should we do? We give you 5% of your sales to Kosala. So if E2 is greater than F2, comma, value if true, I'll say, we give you, so I'm going to say 5%. Multiplication in Excel is star sign. That is shift number 8. 5% of your sales. So I'm going to click on these sales again. That is value if true. If it's true that your sales exceeds your target, you get 5% of your total sale. Value if false. If it's false that you did not meet these criteria, what should happen? You get 0. We don't give you any commission or any bonus. So just type 0. Once I'm done, I'll say enter. Once I'm done executing everything on that hint section, I'll say enter. So if you look keenly, my first person is getting a 0. Why? This person's sales is less than the target. And we said if your sales are less than your target, you get a 0. Once you're done, you'll come here and then you'll autofill. So if you look at my second person who is getting 28.2, this person's sales were greater than the target that she was given. This is Catherine. So it just calculated 5% of 564. That's why we're having 28.2. The same thing goes to the third one. 342 sales, 300 target. This person surpassed. That's why this person is getting 17. The fourth one made a sales of 678, but then the target was 700. That means this person did not meet their targets. That's why this person is getting a 0. Are we together? Evans, can you hear me now? Evans, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. So I want you to calculate on the bonus part using the if function. So this is what I said. This is my if function here. So I said, let me delete and then redo it. I said, I'm going to use the if function. I'll type if, I'll pick the if. My logical test is, if this cell, I click on the first cell, that the sales cell is, so this time let me not use greater than. So I want us to think outside the box. We might actually use less than. So if I say, if this cell is less than this, what do I mean? If I say, if my sales is less than the target, value if true, what should I give? Kennedy. If my sales are less than the target, kama sales this person made are less than the target that they were given. Value is true. What should they be given? No. Remember, bonus or the commission is 5% of your sale, and bonuses is only for the guys that surpassed their target. But if I say my logical test is, if this sales is less than target, what should you get? Should get a 0. kama sales zangu ni ndogo kuliko target yenye nilipatiwa, that means I did not surpass my target, rather I did not actually meet it. That means I should get a zero value if true, si ndio? So I'll type a 0. Otherwise, I get 5% of my sales. This is for the guys who surpass their target, is it? So I'll say 5. I said multiplication is shift number 8. That is the star sign of your cell. Then I'll say, and again, nonetheless, this person is getting a 0 because the only thing that I've changed is the sign, but then I've input, I have my condition well input. So I should be getting same results. So make sure that this is what you're having from your end. Yes, Elizabeth and Mohammed, that's very correct. Let's go to the retainer. On the retainer, we said, retainer, there is no any condition. Retainer is for everyone as long as you made any sales, but you're going just to get 10% of your sales. So I'm not going to use any if function. I'll directly calculate. So I'll say equal sign 10%. 10% of this sale. This one is for everyone, regardless. You don't have to meet your retainer. You don't have to meet your target. You just get 10% of whatever sales that you made. So I'll say equal sign 10% of E2. I'm going to say enter. Then I'll come here and I'll autofill. If you look keenly, the guys that were getting something on the bonus or on the commission, they get even more because they'll get the retainer plus the bonuses. But for the guys who did not meet their targets or have a 0 on their commission, they are getting exactly just a retainer. Are we together? Are we together? So for the retainer, you just directly calculate just 10% of the sales that these individuals made. Let's go to the gross pay. Gross pay is actually direct. So I want you to calculate the gross pay. I'm not going to do that. So it's simply bonus, of which we have bonus calculated, plus retainer. So you start equal sign, bonus, click on the cell that contains the bonus, and the cell that plus the cell that contains the retainer, and then you say enter, and then you autofill. So get the retainer part. Just get the retainer part. Simply by saying equal sign, and then bonus plus retainer. So just click on the cells that contains the bonus and the retainer. So this, for the rest, you can continue. So Evans, I said on the bonus, we said, actually we've been told bonus is 5% of sale. This means for you to get a bonus, you must have surpassed your targets. Ordinarily, that's what happens. So for you to input that condition, you say equal sign, you're going to use the if function. I'll select on if. Logical test will be, if this cell is greater than the target, what should happen? Value is true. If your sales are greater than your target, you get 5% off. Well, otherwise, you get a 0. That means you did not surpass your target. Then I'll say enter. Once you get the first one, you'll just come here and autofill, and you should be having these values. Winnie, you're saying kindly share the Excel sheet that you're using. But I think I'm presenting my screen. So the Excel sheet, or the Excel file. The file is called master's data. I think it's one of the files that I shared. The file is called master's data. So are we done calculating the gross pay? Are we done? So what are you getting is the first gross pay? Second one? Good. Let's go to the paid period. But before we go to the paid period, let's go to the comment section. Achana na paid period. That one we'll do it later. Let's go to the comment section. So on the comment section, I said in our last class, what were we commenting about? In our last class, what were our comments? Promoted and repeat. Those are our comments. So I said on the comment, it's basically what do you want to comment on and based on what? So in this case, remember, this is an organization and these are my salesperson. At the end of the day or at the end of the month, there's some guys that I'm going to fire and there's some guys that I'm going to retain. So the guys that I'm going to fire are those guys that did not meet their targets. So kama ulipata your target and you did not meet, then you're gonna get fired. But if you surpassed or met your target, then we retain you. Because at the end of the day, we need to employ new employees to get new employees and to fire the so-called lazy ones, the ones who cannot meet their targets. So I want you to calculate the comments, but I want you to use the knowledge that we used in our last class. So the outcomes are fire and retain. So I have two outcomes, fire, retain. But based on what? Based on the, it's based on the target that you've been given, or rather these individuals were given. So you can use sales and target, or you can use bonus. So it's you to decide. Because for the bonus, of course, for those who are getting a 0, that means they did not meet their targets. Sindio? So you can use sales and target. So let me see how you're going to do that. So I want you to recall what we did in our last class with the comment section. And of course, you're going to use the if function. Going to use the if function.
So
the comments are fire and retain. There's some guys that are going to get fired at the end of the month, and there's some guys who are going to be retained. And I said, for those who are going to be retained is those guys that surpassed their target. Kama ulipita target yenye ulipatia, then we're going to, of course, to retain you. But if you did not meet your target, then we are going to fire you. Using if function, I want you to get the comment section. Use a minute to do that. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes to do that. So 2 minutes, and then you should be getting something on the comment section. Okay, so what are you getting? So just a minute. What are you getting as your first comment? Elizabeth, I can see you're done. What are you getting as your first comment?
Fire.
Okay. Thank you, Victor. Yes, you should be getting a fire. This because actually this person did not get any any uh, any bonus or any commission. So this is how you do it. So equal sign, then if. So what did you use, Elizabeth? Did you use the bonus or the sales and the target?
I use the sales and target.
So for her, she used sales and target. I think this is what she did. She selected the if, and her logical test was if this sales is greater than target, this sale, you get what? Retain. So I'll say retain. Comma, otherwise just fire. And I'll say enter. That's why she got the fire on the first one. If I didn't want to use the sales and target, I'd have said, so assuming that in my case I want to use the bonus, I'll say equal sign if, and select, I say if this cell is greater than 0. No. So that means if it's greater than 0, then the person must have made their targets. So if it's greater than 0, we get what? A retain. Otherwise, fire or fired, and enter. Still, I'm getting the same thing. So I'll just come here, I will autofill. And if you look keenly, all these guys that are getting a fire, they're actually they were getting a 0 on the commission section. All the guys that were getting a 0 are getting a fire. Let's go to the highest cell. Let's go to the highest cell. So on the highest cell, why would we want to calculate highest cell? Ordinarily in an organization, why would you want to get the highest cell? Why are we bothering getting the highest cell? Because I said the essence again in Excel, let's all understand that the essence is not just to get results, because anyone can get results, but how best can you explain your results? Mbona tuna calculate highest cell? Why would you want to calculate the highest cell? Number one, probably it's because you want to award the guy or the person that had the most sales as a way of motivation for the other guys at the end of the day. So if you want to reward maybe through promotion or any other way of rewarding, you do wish to get who that person was. And of course, you can't just come and start checking, cross-checking, assuming that you're dealing with 1,000 persons. How are you going to do it? So you have to have a formula or a way of you getting the highest sale. So with the highest sale, so this is how you do it. Here we are going to combine two functions. Okay? So on the highest cell, say equal sign, and then if. We're going to select if. What is our logical test? Of course, our highest cell is going to come from the cells. Cells because highest cell that was made. So my logical test will say if this person, the first person cell, equals max. So I have two equal signs. In Excel, you don't have highest, you have max. That is maximum, the maximum cell that was made. So you'll say if the first cell on the cells column equals to max. So max on itself is another function. So I'll select max. I'll click on max. But on max tumeambiwa number 1, number 2, number 3. Where are we going to get now this maximum from? It's from all these cells that were made. So we want the software to come and look at all the cells that were made and get us the highest. Remember, we are still at our logical test. We are still dealing with the if function. So we'll come here, click on the first cell, and then, sorry. This cell, everything up to the last thing. On the maximum, so we are telling the software, kuja hapa kwa cell, if this cell equals to maximum. But again, where are you going to get your maximum? It's from all the cells that were made. Software ije hapo iangalie kwa hizi cells zote that they were made, get us the maximum. So our range is from E2 to E26. Are we okay? So since we've used two different functions, that is if and we have max, and remember we started with the if, so we are still at our logical test. So for us, for the software to take us back to the if, because we are done on where we're going to get our maximum cell, you'll put the closing parentheses, or rather the closing bracket. So once you do it, it takes you back to your if function. So the entire thing that we've just written becomes our logical test. And then you're done with the logical test, you have a comma. Tuko sawa? So value if true. When our software goes and tries to look at all the cells that were made and gets the highest, what should it print for us? That is value if true. If it gets the highest, then do what? Print for us highest. So we can say in speech marks, highest. Ikipata huyo mtu mwenye ni highest, it will print for us highest. Then I'll close. Then I'll say comma. If you don't, so if once it gets us the highest, all other persons do not really matter to us. So don't print. You can say don't print anything. Kama wewe si highest, don't print for us anything. That is value false. If it finds you that you're not the highest, then it should not print anything on your case. So for to tell the software that don't print anything here, so just like we've been saying, hire and retain. On the value false, we were saying the retain a magnifier based on the condition that you had. So here on the value false, we don't want the software to print anything for us. So I'll open the bracket, I'll open the speech marks, and then I'll put nothing in between, and then I'll close. That means don't print anything. Then I'll say enter. So when you're prompted, it's simply because you did not add the closing bracket. So you'll just say yes to accept the correction. So the first thing that you're getting is nothing. There's nothing that has been printed. I've executed, but there's nothing that has been printed. Why? It's because we told the software, if you're not the highest, then don't print anything. But if you come here and then autofill, you're getting two highest, this one and this one. So I want to make sure that you're at this point. I want to make sure that you're at that point. Are we all there? Are we getting highest to highest? Guys, I want to know what you're getting. Evans, what are you getting? You're getting two? Okay, I'll come look at it. 10 and 26. So who else is getting something different from what we are getting on our screens? So this is what you should be seeing. Two highest, and then I'll come and explain about the two highest because we want just one highest. also we did not add